Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon. I'm the staff hearing officer, and I call the meeting of Wednesday, November 9th to order. Today we have 7 items on our agenda, and I haven't received any requests for continuances or withdrawals, so we'll hear them in the order that they appear on the agenda. Under announcements and appeals, I just want to remind everyone that the SHO meeting on November 23rd has been canceled, so our next meeting will be in December. In regards to appeals, there was an appeal at the Planning Commission last Thursday, November 3rd, for property on Bath Street, and it was a request for interior setback modification, and the Planning Commission upheld the appeal and approved the project. And then we have another upcoming SHO appeal. It's 1547 Shoreline Drive, and it was a request for a front setback modification that was partially approved, and it has been appealed, and the Planning Commission date is December 8th. So I just wanted to let everyone know, if you've been following that project, the hearing will be on the 8th. I don't have any other announcements and appeals. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on today's agenda? Seeing no one, we'll go to the first item, which is a continued item. It's 825 Roble Lane, if the applicant would like to come up. And this project was last heard was before the SHO on October 12th, and at that time we reviewed, had a public hearing, took public comment, and I had expressed concerns regarding the supportability of the modification, and continued the project to this date, giving direction to the applicant to study other alternatives that would not require as significant of an encroachment, and to demonstrate why other areas are not available. So I haven't received any additional information, so I assume you guys are going to be presenting that today. So we'll go from there. I'm not sure if staff has anything to add. There was no changes to the staff report.
Right. We didn't do another staff report. I don't have anything unless you have any questions. We did get a couple of public comment letters for this hearing.
Okay. And just to remind everyone what the staff recommendation was at the last hearing. Were you going to go into a presentation in terms of just a recap what you're requesting?
Yeah, pretty much a recap.
Okay, so do you have your plans? Yeah, just recap what you're requesting, why your justifications on why the modification should be approved. There was some question at the last hearing in regards to staff's proposal or staff's revised supportability. They were stating that they couldn't support the whole modification over the garage, and was made an alternative recommendation that the second story be pulled back 15 feet. We kind of briefly discussed that, but that's part of the discussion today. So if you wanted to go into a little bit of that, would be great.
All right.
State your name for the record.
I'm Kent Mixon, architect for the project, and Relatus Mixon Architects.
Trish Allen with Suzanne Elledge, Planning and Permitting.
So since I guess it was about a month ago that we last met, we have discussed this at length, met at length, and not only amongst ourselves, but with the client and owner. Mm-hmm. And we have elected not to revise the design as it was originally presented. And we feel very strongly about what we have proposed, and that it is the right thing for this site. Obviously, the site is very constrained. It's not your typical rectangular site that easily applies setbacks and zoning language to it. Not only this site, but the entire neighborhood and everywhere else on the hillside is very similar. But as I stated in the first time, it's a very three-dimensional problem, and the entire neighborhood, as you can see in just what we've shown here on this site plan, shows that all the houses are within the setbacks, and some are much more close to the street and much taller than even what we're proposing. The thing that makes this site unique from the other ones is that the majority of this first floor, the floor that you see now, is under the street level.
Photo really shows that well too. You can't-
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see in the photo and in the existing and proposed that so much of this house is under the street level, which is unique for this neighborhood because even though it is hilly, the street is steep and so forth, most of the houses bear the same relationship, if not closer to the property line, but they are at full face at the street level in 2 stories. And so you can see in our relationship, the site section, what is that? That is in here, isn't it?
That'll be that one. There.
No, these are site sections, but it's not the, oh, there it is, the profiles. This shows the existing profiles. This goes about 4 or 5 properties up. This is us, next door neighbor, and then there's an interior lot here, and then a couple of houses up. So you can see much of what are existing is underground. And what we're proposing is actually much less in profile than what exists up there today. We took it to single family a couple times and massaged the mass and pulled it in different places. And we just feel that, and they felt that this was the best location for the mass and that it met the size, bulk, and scale. It was compatible with the neighborhood. And it had unanimous support. And even city staff said that, this is not a precedent-setting project. It is very much in keeping with what already exists up there. In addition, we're with our proposal, we're at 75% of the FARs as well. So we feel like we've made a reasonable request and took into consideration the location and mass of this project with great detail. It's buried where the existing single floor is completely below street level. It's surrounded by existing vegetation for what we're proposing. We pulled it back from out here, keep it away from neighbors. And this, we feel, presents the best foot forward for the design.
Okay, great, thanks. Did you want to add anything, Trish?
In a little bit, if I could talk about the minutes and the record and that kind of thing, but after, not as part of the presentation, just as a bookkeeping matter.
Okay, great. All right, I don't have any questions right now. I'd like to open the public hearing. I do have one request to speak, and it's from Janine Palumbo.
You want to slide?
We can do,
Sure.
move it that way. Here,
Oh,
give
you
her
want it
that,
over
Mel. You put this one. For some reason, we're all down that way today. Yeah, so. Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say good morning. And after last night, we're all kind of in a state of shock in Santa Barbara. I don't know about the rest of the people at this table, but I expected this meeting that I would need to speak, so I just put it out there as an opportunity to say that I wanted to make sure that you received my letter the other day, because the importance of that letter was the attachment of the original plan that is where the carport that's now the garage is built. And when Susan asked this question last week or on the 12th about whether or not that building could handle a second story or third story in this matter, because in this area it would be third, can't mention that it was built to specs that it could handle it, but well, I think if you go back and listen
It's
to
okay,
the
just
record.
address me. And
Yes,
we'll,
thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, my hearing's pretty good, but it'll be in the record. if you look at the plan I submitted, the picture of my plan, which my house was built 7 years later. This is a 48, I think. Is that the year it was built? Anyway, Delfonso built these to be carports. There's no way structurally that building that garage, which was a carport, can hold another story without being substantially or completely demolished. And the fact that you asked that question, Susan, kind of stuck in my head. And it stuck in my head for the last 3 weeks because I thought, that's an important question. What was her point? And then I started to think about, if you remove a garage anywhere in the city of Santa Barbara and it's within the setbacks, you cannot rebuild that garage in that place. That's my understanding. Again, I'm not in the building department. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking maybe that's a poignant factor here in what's going to happen to this garage if it burned down, for example, or if it's got to be completely replaced. So that's my concern. In addition to the 75% of the lot, this, that's my understanding, according to the city, is not merged yet. There's still some speculation about the encroachment into the roadway. That's still outstanding, hasn't been corrected. And it's a violation. There's currently a violation on that property, a building violation, that this lot is encroaching into the public easement of that roadway. So everything's kind of hanging loose. I don't know. But, yeah, maybe Trish can tell you what's going on there. But the neighbors are all going, how come the city hasn't been on top of this thing? All the neighbors have seen that wall built, and they're talking about it here at the city, but everything's still kind of hanging loose. So we're just kind of frustrated.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 825 Robo Lane? Seeing no one. So I did receive 2 emails. One was from Janine, like she just stated, and then the other one was this morning. Another email that I put in my pile here from Neil Greenleaves, again expressing concerns with the 2-story structure in the setback. And I would, and have we received any other calls or emails? No. So with that, I'll close the public hearing. I would like to respond a little in regards to my question regarding the garage, if it could support the structural load of it. A lot of times, well, it's not true. If you demolish and rebuild a non-conforming building or structure as is, you can do that. You don't need a special permission or not. It's a non-conforming. Our code allows for you to demo rebuild. In the instance of what you're proposing is that you're adding on. But what I was wondering, are you demoing and rebuilding with the addition? Because then I would look to see if it should be moved or pushed back. So that was my question, and you answered no, it's not demoed and rebuilt. And then, looking at it and thinking about it in the case, if perhaps it does need to be demolished and rebuilt, in this particular situation, wait, let me back up a little. If I'm concerned about the demolish and rebuilding, I'll put a condition that says if it is demolished and rebuilt, if it's found in the field that it needs to be demolished, your modification may become null and void, that you need to come back in and speak to us. In this instance, if for some instance that would need to be demolished and rebuilt, I don't have that as much of a concern given this particular site in that it is constrained. It has the 2 setbacks. It's
Sloped.
Yeah, down from grade. That word. It's submerged, I guess. So you can't see it. So in this instance, for this, the garage itself to be demolished and rebuilt wouldn't be the concern. It'd be whatever addition on top that would be the concern. However, that's what you're asking for approval right now, is to allow that change to the first story, to allow the second story and the second story to be in there. So that, I just wanted to clarify what my question was leading to, just to clarify, and then to figure out in my mind, is that going to be a significant concern for me if it had to be demolished? Then in regards to the lot merger, there was information that was presented to me at the public hearing in October that it was done. I received the map, and it's all been recorded. So it is all recorded. And then in regards to Mr. Mr. Greenleaf's concern about, says, in particular, the issue of building a two-story structure within the front setback is totally unacceptable to me. That, it should conform to the setbacks. And the whole reason why we have the modification process is because not every property can conform to the zoning. And so there is some truly hardship situations in which it is appropriate to apply for a modification. So just the fact that your building's in the setback and you're adding on to it doesn't mean it should automatically be denied. We need to look at all the issues, and as I was discussing at the hearing last week, I look at the amount of encroachment that you're requesting and what the neighborhood, the pattern of development is. And I came to the conclusion at the last hearing that I couldn't support such a great encroachment into the setback. And I also expressed concerns regarding even being able to support staff's recommendation, which was the allowing a 15-foot encroachment or a 15-foot setback from the property line for the front setback, and then it was about a foot, right, in the interior still?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so a foot in, and I was concerned with that, and that's why I wanted you guys to go off and to look at other options, including like even remodeling the interior of the existing residence and proposing a smaller third story. So that's where I left off. So I don't know. I can go on and make the my determination in that, but I don't know. You said you wanted to talk about additional clarification.
Yeah, and I don't know. Can I speak to some of the things that were brought up
Sure.
as well? I actually happened to bring this with me, thank goodness. This is the original plan of the house.
Yeah.
And you can see that it was a garage.
Oh, yeah.
It's built as a garage structure. It just had openings in the side, so there were full walls. Which you can see. This was when they got the permit to enclose it, so they basically enclosed in that opening and put a garage door on the opening there.
Oh, I've seen that a lot of the older plans. They call what we would call a garage
a post
today.
and beam type of carport minimal structure.
Yeah.
And just so you can see where we are preliminary structure-wise, foundation. Oh, yeah.
For the TV.
Where are we?
Sorry.
Foundation-wise, foundation here. This is the garage structure. The only foundation. Oh, sorry. The only foundation work we're proposing to do at this point is reinforcing these corners of the garage. We do remodels all the time and not have to tear down structures. I mean, that's a common thing that we have to work with. So it's pretty minimal in terms of the impact that we would have to do to that. Obviously, the roof would come off because we're building over that structure with a new roof and a new floor and so forth. But the walls, the existing walls, can certainly stay at the existing garage. So.
Okay.
In terms of, you talked about the lot merger. That's been done. And what was the other?
Susie didn't ask about the wall. That the public
Oh, the
brought up.
wall encroachment. Do you want to speak to that since
Sure.
we were across?
So, Judy mentioned that there's a violation and there was a wall constructed by this property owner. So that's all accurate, and we are working with the Public Works Department. I don't know what the planner is, but the wall that is being referred to is this low rock wall down at the bottom of the property. It is located in the right-of-way. You can see the large right-of-way here. The edge of pavement's way out here. And I have put a photo basically looking this way so you could see that area and this low wall that you're referring to. So we are in communication with the Public Works Department to address this and obtain the appropriate as-built permit. We did apply this week. I believe it was on Monday. So just to clarify that for the record.
And then what were your comments about clarifying something on the minutes?
So, yeah, it's just, in fact, I spoke to Ms. Gu, too, to understand just the process with the summary minutes. I imagine that these are summary minutes. They don't provide a lot of detail in terms of the staff presentation and our reasonings and justifications. But in your comments summarized as to explaining why the findings could not be made, I guess just a clarification. The last sentence says, she, meaning you, Ms. Reardon, stated that the modification must be found to be necessary to secure an appropriate improvement and not just desirable or preferred. And so sort of my question is that the summary of what the applicant's position was? Because I feel like it's missing quite a bit of, we talked a lot about why we've pursued this design and why we feel it makes sense and the work that was done at the Single Family Design Board. And this summary, I feel like it doesn't capture exactly what we were presenting to you for your consideration. So just sort of a question, comment, and is there the ability to elaborate on that for the record? I mean, there's a video record that's not very that's very detailed that is very much summarized here, if you get my drift.
Right, yeah.
So I was concerned about that because that wasn't really our position. That we just think this is better. I think it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, well, the minutes are generally action minutes. They're just, this was taken and that. When there's a potential appeal, there is more detail put into it. And it's more of to give direction, pointing down to what the action was, to give more direction on what should be followed up on. And so in terms of the response, is more of, this is why we can't do what you had directed us to do. So it could be clarified in any appeal letter.
Okay. All right. And I just kind of wanted to make my comment here during the hearing, just so that it is in the record.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so
we've reiterated our position and kind of hit those highlights to you.
Well, the other thing that's good about continuances is it gives everybody time to look at things and review things and do additional research and stuff. And I have gone out to the site again, reviewed the record, reviewed all of it, and I still have concerns regarding the supportability of your original request. And that just hasn't changed. I still believe it's too great of an encroachment. I agree with your thought process, and I really appreciate your thought process and where you're proposing it and tucking it into the corner. But there's still the pattern of development and having it this close to the front property line just raises concerns with me. And you had a picture, maybe it's in the front of this thing, but let me see if it's here. That has the one when you're going up, and it has the, I think it is in this one right here. You're going up, turning the corner to get onto Roval. And here, move this one back. So we're not rubbing in everyone's ears. I'll show you one thing. This here, how it's just it's too. I just feel that this portion here it needs to be stepped back away from the front, so it's not. It appears real close to the property line. And the other concern I have is just regarding the chimney. However, I understand the whole issue with the chimney, fire codes and all that kind of stuff, but is there some way it can be reduced, at least in width? Because like when you look at your visuals and your mock-ups, that chimney becomes a real focal point. And, I don't know if there's some way it can be narrow, tapered. You see the ones on the side of your house, they do taper up. But then I don't know what that would do visually, and it would be something the design board would have to look at and work with you, because I don't want to make it look even more like, oh, look at that weird design.
Capture your attention,
Yeah, because it's not uniform. But so upon further contemplation and going out to the site and really driving and thinking about it, I feel comfortable making the findings as staff was proposing, with the 15-foot setback from the property line, and also a requirement that the chimney width be restudied at the design board to help reduce. I'm talking more the width, because I know there's a code standard with the height, but if it could even be lowered, that would be great. So make the findings as they're outlined in the staff report, and in terms of denying your original crest, but approving a smaller encroachment, you still have the option to appeal. Everyone has the option to appeal, but you have a partial approval at least, which is better than no approval.
Yes, we understand. Thank you.
Okay, so then I'd add the condition about the chimney. So I'll say reduce width and height if possible, subject to review and approval by SFDB.
You said width and height. I think their height is at the minimum height, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the height with the width was, if possible, yeah. Because in terms of the height, it's not overly tall. Our code doesn't regulate the number of stories. It's more of the height, and it's
it's the 2 feet above, 10 feet to the closest structure. So that's what that represents right now.
Okay.
You have to be 10 feet away and 2 feet taller than that. So
Okay. All right. So I was just looking at my notes to see if there's anything else. So I think that was the only condition I wanted to add. And staff's you're not proposing any conditions, right? It does say findings and conditions, but there's no conditions.
Right.
Going to carry forward. Okay, so
This probably was a condition about the lot merger, but that kind of happened while the staff report was published.
okay.
Yeah, so that was probably what that was related to.
Okay, so with that added condition, and it sounds like you're acceptable to the added condition, I will deny your original request, but approve the reduced encroachment. And like I said, my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And if anybody who's in the audience is interested in appealing it is here at 630 Garden Street versus over at City Hall. All the other design boards' appeals are at City Hall, so that's why I want to just let you know so you're not running around trying to figure out where to file it. Also, Planning Commission has oversight of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if either of those were to occur, Tony would contact you.
Okay.
All right?
great.
All right, thank you. Thanks for your extra time going out there and deliberation. We've been thinking a lot about it, too.
I'm sure you have.
Those booths.
Trish, you want to go in there and talk about that open yard?
The next item is 1032 Santa Barbara Street, if the applicant and staff would like to come up to the board or to the table. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Keeps walking. I don't know what. You know what the issue here is? Can you scoot that one to like there? And then you get this one. Turn it this way. So This way.
Oh, that one.
Yes, there we go. Then now that's why I was like, that was in the way.
All right, got it.
Sorry, anytime you're ready.
No,
Okay.
it's fine. Okay.
Morning.
Morning.
David Ing, planning technician here for this project at 1032 Santa Barbara Street. This is a proposal for a mixed-use project to be developed under the city's average unit size density program. It'll be developed on what is currently two separate lots here, currently developed with a single-family home and a commercial building. The proposal is for a three-story building with 8 residential units and 1,369 square feet of commercial space in the front. There's parking on the ground level. The residential units are on the floors above it. The modification being requested here today is for relief from the requirement to have a 60 square foot private outdoor living space for this studio unit that's at this frontage on Santa Barbara Street. So here is an elevation of that area. This is an enclosed mirror door balcony that would not qualify for the private outdoor living space as defined in the ordinance. However, this will have operable wooden screens that will provide air and light, although it won't be exposed to the sky above. Staff feels that this mirror door balcony will substantially serve the purposes of an outdoor living space. This project was reviewed by the Historic Landmarks Commission on April 20th, and it received favorable comments on its design. It was also reviewed by Planning Commission for a concept review, and the Planning Commission did also support having the enclosed mirror door balcony at that elevation and having it in lieu of the typically required private outdoor living space. And so for those reasons, staff is supporting approval of the modification as submitted without conditions.
No conditions? Okay. Great, thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
Mark Shields, architect with Design Arc.
David Watkins, also with Design Arc.
Do you want to add anything?
I'd just like to add that as this design was well received by the HLC and the Planning Commission, it kind of makes sense. It's on a busy street, which is Santa Barbara Street. It faces west, so we have a lot of the sun control issues. Essentially, the screen is open air, and then these open up. So essentially, you are outside. The door to this porch is back in. Mm-hmm. And so the HLC felt that it was kind of an authentic way to thread the needle between, occupied outdoor space in a historic fashion. Mm-hmm. So they liked the idea. And so we just had a lot of support from both Planning Commission and the HLC on this design. So,
do we have any of these in the city right now?
Actually, yeah. These aren't. But if you look here, I took a lot of photos of actually local conditions that meet this repeatedly, and I think that's where the disagreement comes in with planning. Is that the way the ordinance reads, the exclusion defines with a roof line under 7 feet. The way we read it is that if it's over 7 feet plate height, then you have a roof that it could be considered an outdoor living space. Planning's position is that no matter what, if it has a roof over it, that it cannot be considered outdoor living space. If you look around, though, there's numerous examples throughout the city of enclosed roofs being used for that same purpose. So we felt that was appropriate.
Yeah, is it the roof part or is it the enclosure part, David?
Well, it is both, being enclosed and also not being open to the sky.
Okay. Yeah, because I would say this would count as private outdoor living space, but once you go ahead and frame this in and put something in there, it wouldn't anymore.
And even with city's position, even if this was the case, that's not considered private outdoor living space. Our screens, as Mark mentioned, they're removable. You can put them on there if it's afternoon sun, which bakes on that elevation right there. You can put them up, keep them closed. Different parts of the year, you can remove those and have those be totally open with posts that just infill that area.
Okay.
It's also, there's a historic precedent for this type of outdoor space, both in Andalusia and in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And so the HLC felt very confident about the use of this design style for this space. So it wasn't really an issue with anybody, Planning Commission either.
Okay.
Everybody supported it and it seemed like a good idea.
Okay.
So.
Great, thanks. All right, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 1032 Santa Barbara Street? No? Have we received any emails or calls or anything?
No, I have not.
Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. Yeah, I've never heard of that type of thing before, and actually, it looks really nice. When I was reading the staff report, I wasn't quite clear on like the screens. It's good to hear the removable. There, it is open air.
It's
it is
totally open air.
So it does meet the purposes and intent of providing an outside area. I understand I have a west-facing window on my house, and it gets really hot in the afternoon.
We're going to have to do something about that.
Right, so it makes sense. It looks better than an awning, I think.
Yeah.
That would look kind of funny having the awning there to block the sun.
Yeah.
But since it does function as your outdoor living space, I would want to add a condition if I was to improve it, that it shall not be enclosed with glass.
Absolutely.
Nor conditioned or incorporated into the living space, which I mean is
Absolutely.
that all of a sudden this gets remodeled, you have all this. So I
Right.
would put a condition that you can't do that, but then add without further review by the planning division, because you may be proposing something that may still be able to be considered outdoor living space. So just you can't do that and without coming in and checking with us.
That's the planning is offered
That makes
too.
sense. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Okay.
Certainly, our intentions are that it's just a screened outdoor living space, open air.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, and the fact that it does kind of melt with a Spanish, Moroccan kind of feel.
Yeah.
Everybody liked it a lot. So it's like I always look at it as that's why you guys are here, right?
Yeah.
It's to look at something that makes sense and say, yes, it's good, and we have a lot of support. So
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Planning did recognize that too. That the point that you brought up right now, there is a lot of disagreement with the languages because that exact exclusion is listed 3 different times, and it's worded just a little bit differently each time. So there's a hard consensus. They also acknowledge they're trying to work on that to improve that. So in the future, that could very well be a condition where if it was enclosed with a roof, that it would still count.
That's a nice segue into our new zoning ordinance process. If you guys would please review our draft that's going to be coming out next month.
we'd love to, yeah.
And provide any comments, or even provide input on issues like this that you found out that you've been struggling with, and we're open.
Because really, it's the intent, right? It's
Yeah.
the intent.
Yeah.
That
Clear
how do you
intent.
use the space, and is it open air? How does it feel?
Right.
That's what we're after, yeah.
So you
makes
guys have
sense.
a lot of experience. We really appreciate any comments.
Sure.
All right. So the other thing, actually, I do want to change the finding and strike off the last sentence where it says the Mirador balcony for the studio unit has garnered support from the HLC and Planning Commission as a suitable substitute for private outdoor living space. That's true, but that doesn't need to be my finding. I make my own findings and justifications for it, so that I take all their considerations and comments into my decision, but I don't feel like I need that in my findings, so I'm just going to strike that.
Yeah.
So with the added condition that I added regarding the can't be enclosed or incorporated, and the revisions to the findings, I can approve your project.
Thank you.
And my actions appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if either of those would occur, David would contact you.
All righty.
Okay?
Sounds fair.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Do you have these for your file? Can we?
There are supplementals of our PowerPoints that we given to you guys. You guys can have that though. We have
Okay,
copies.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next project is 855 Miramonte, if the applicant would like to come up. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I like your photos. This is the best photo.
Presentation.
Yeah, the way they're just organized and in this nice little packet. I just wanted
Thank
to
you very
compliment
much.
you.
Yeah, I wanted to be able to present as clear a picture as I could.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful and nice. Anytime you're ready, Betsy.
Okay. So, subject property is located at 855 Miramonte Drive. The applicant is proposing to, requesting a modification for an interior setback for existing, two existing decks that were added in.
Let me see. It's this way.
Oh, he hit the mute. Okay. Okay. No, it's still
You guys
saying.
hear?
Still saying it's on. Okay. So let's start over. So the subject property is located at 855 Miramonte Drive. The applicant is requesting a modification to allow two existing decks that currently encroach into the required interior setback. These decks were added under a permit issued in 1988. And although the plans showed them outside of the setback, they were built slightly encroaching into the setback, and the permit was signed off by city staff. In 2015, the owner applied for a permit to add a pool and some other improvements in the rear yard, and staff reviewed the plans and noticed that the decks, these two decks did encroach into the interior setback. The applicant has decided that to remove the decks, given as you probably saw, they're pretty substantial concrete decks. It would not be easy to remove the decks in their current location, both from a financial standpoint and from a building standpoint. So the applicant is requesting that they be allowed to stay as constructed, and that a modification be granted for this encroachment. The Single Family Design Board did review the request for the encroachment for the decks and did forward it to staff hearing officer with generally positive comments. Staff supports the modification request because we believe, given the topography, given that city staff did sign off on the original permit in 1988, and that we don't believe that this will impact the adjacent neighbors, that it is an appropriate improvement for the lot, and that the modification can be supported based on that. Do you have any questions?
So the modification is for the deck and the walls, right? Because they exceed the maximum in the setback?
Correct. The requirement, the condition.
Because it's 8 and 7, so it'd be for the whole
There's the wall that's
so this
incorporated.
wall right here. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the modification request is to have that condition, which was put on the building permit for the pool. They put a condition that we would remove this section and then rebuild it outside of the setback.
Okay.
So that just became a very problematic, and as she stated, be a very expensive for something that was approved, permitted, inspected back in 1988. My clients came along many years later, not even understanding that this was an issue. There were 3 subsequent zoning issue statements that never reflected that there was any violation of anything.
Well, it's hard until you review plans, given the topography. There's no fence line, there's no demarcation between the properties, so that's really hard to know.
Right, and nobody would have known until we went for this pool and we had everything surveyed, and the survey showed that this corner was approximately 3 feet inside the setback to nothing at this point. So the condition to go forward with the permit was to remove that, and subsequently we have asked for modification because of the financial impact it would put on the client and the effect it would have architecturally. As it sits now, it all sort of looks cohesive. And if we just were to slice a piece off of there and then rebuild this very flat-looking wall, I think it would have an impact. But again, none of this is visible from anywhere in the area, so it just seemed reasonable to request the modification.
Okay, what was your name for the record?
I'm Bill Chappell, and I'm the contractor on the job, Chappell.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, great. So then I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 855 Miramonte Drive? Seeing no one. Have we received any emails or letters on this one?
No, I have not.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. I did go out to the site and walked around down here and then peeked my head in. I knocked, no one was there. I peeked my head in here to get an idea of the deck. And like I said, it's really hard to tell where the property lines are. I don't see that we have an aerial, but the next house kind of goes down and back up again, and it's over here. So it's a significant difference or a distance away. And in terms of buildable areas, if there's anything ever added on the neighbor's property, maybe an outbuilding, which it wouldn't. This deck with the wall wouldn't significantly impact that. The reason why I clarified whether this, I assumed it included the walls because they're over height, it was not real clear in the notice. So this request, especially with the wall being it's a solid wall, it is appropriate improvement given the topography, the existing development, the wall. One thing that wasn't mentioned here, but it's on the site plan and in the pictures, there is actually planters along here, which provides another buffer. So although the structure itself is within the setback, the congregation areas are outside the setback. But even on a flat lot or one without it, you can use your setbacks. We just don't, the zoning ordinance doesn't allow you to have permanent structures in the setbacks. So, and then the other point I was going to make is your setback is 10 feet. It is at least 6 feet from the property line.
Correct.
Which in most areas of the zone, or city, that's the minimum. I realize larger lots require larger setbacks, but again, given all the situations of this particular case, that your request is reasonable and supportable. I do want to make revisions to the finding just to make it more clear why it's supportable. So I want to indicate that it is to allow the as-built deck, walls, columns within the interior setback, and then also add in the justification that given the existing distance to the closest neighboring residence, and also the fact that the solid walls and columns provide privacy and noise barrier between the properties, those are other considerations taken into account in the supportability of the project. And then like the previous project, I will just delete the sentence that talks about the SFDB supports the deck as aesthetically appropriate for the site. It's important information and it's important for them to support it. But like I said in the previous project, it's not something I necessarily have to put in my findings. I take it into my consideration in making it. If they weren't supportive of it, then I wouldn't have been supportive either. But it's something that I don't really need to, I believe in this instance, need to stick in my findings.
I agree.
Okay. And then in regards to conditions, staff didn't propose any conditions, and I don't feel I need to add any conditions. So with that revised finding, I can approve your project. Like you heard me say on the other two projects, my actions appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. They also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period, and if either of those would occur, Betsy would contact you.
Okay.
Okay? Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That is good news. My clients will be very pleased to hear it. So you did get a chance to go out and take a look at it and saw that the pool was all built.
I did.
And,
Yes,
and
a
the
nice
hardscape.
backyard.
It's really turned out beautiful, and they're very excited. And now that they don't have to tear down that wall, they'll be thrilled.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Now I'll go to the next item, which is 1746 La Cornelia. Good morning.
Good morning.
Anytime you're ready, please.
Okay. So this is a lot, about almost 7,000 square foot lot developed with a 2,100 square foot single family, one-story dwelling with an attached two-car carport. And just to give you a little, and a side patio cover, and to give you a little background, the original garage was converted to living space back in, I think it was 1969, and then the carport was added at that time. In 1991, a modification was granted for the patio cover to encroach into the required interior setback. When the garage was converted, it conformed to the setbacks at that time, and then, as you know, many of those properties were rezoned, and so now they are subject to a larger setback, a 10-foot setback. So we did approve, as I said, the city approved the requested patio cover encroachment. So the applicant today is proposing to remove the patio cover and to add about 36 square feet of new living space, a laundry room, which will actually be a uniform improvement. It'll follow the line of what was the former garage, which is now a living area, and it will actually encroach less than the existing patio cover. Staff supports the encroachment, and there will also be a new window opening, as you can see. So staff does support the request for the encroachment. We think that it's not anticipated to cause any detrimental effect to the neighbors, given that the patio cover, the existing patio cover, actually encroaches further than the proposed addition. So we support the request for the modification. So if you have any questions or...
Not at this time. Would you like to state your name for the record? Provide any additional comments?
Jill Horton, applicant for the owners, Will and Beth Skidmore. The modification will also allow interior access to the rec room from the house. Right now there is no interior access. They have small children who like to spend most of their time with their toys in the rec room, and just make it an easier living situation for them with the two young children. And other than that, that's about it.
Okay. I do have a question for you. Is this new window, is it code required? Or is it just for aesthetics?
No, it's just for aesthetics, and it looks onto their garage, and I was advised to go ahead and leave it in and let you make the determination whether it can be there or not.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 1746 La Cornelia? Well, see no one. Have we received any emails or I'm off? That was me. So we received no emails or letters?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll close the public hearing. I did go out to the site and walked in the backyard in that area, and I realized the existing laundry is in this area right now. You're just pushing it over with the hallway. So yeah, here's the existing laundry. Here's the patio cover in this area. And so you're just proposing to extend it out in this area.
Yes.
One of the concerns with interior setback modifications is the interplay between the two properties, and that's why I was asking about the window. Another concern is the air duct for the dryer that has the lint and the smell dryer sheet smell and all that go out of it. That is a requirement. It needs to be vented outside. So either it's down here on the floor or up through the ceiling, or I guess now they have ventless water dryers. But that is a necessity. Have you talked to the neighbor? Has the property?
The owner said they've spoken with the neighbors.
Okay.
And they don't
have any concern
about it.
Okay. Well, since the vent is required, I would want to add a condition that no other openings, so no window or door in this area. This door is fine. It's orientated towards the rear property line. The concern with the door is not only in and out, but also that light. Sometimes if it's not motion censored, it gets left on, or even if it's motion censored and the skunks like to run through there, turns it on, that can be an annoyance. But it's less so pointing that way than in this area. So I would like to add a condition that just no windows or doors shall be located on the east exterior elevation of the laundry room.
Okay.
For this, just for this. And in regards to the findings, I reviewed the findings and I agree with staff's analysis that is in the staff report that it's a minor encroachment into the interior setback. It represents a uniform extension of the garage door. It's not oversized, and that it is an appropriate improvement. So therefore, I can make the findings outlined in the staff report and approve your project subject to the condition that I added. And my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them during that same 10-day review period, Betsy would contact you.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Betsy.
Our next item is 2105 Anacapa Street.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Anytime you're ready.
Let's. Okay. So this is a project that has had several reviews, previous reviews. It's a house located at the corner of Anacapa Street and Padre. And it's been before staff hearing officer and actually got appealed to Planning Commission previously for several different modification requests. And the lot is fairly constrained, as you can see. There's not much of a open yard area. So this is really considered their open yard, their secondary front yard. So the applicant is requesting today a front interior setback in order to allow this as-built upper, I'm calling it the upper floor deck, to encroach into the front yard and to allow a new pizza oven and barbecue on the lower deck to encroach into the front yard. Staff supports the modification request because we believe that this area really does function as truly only area for recreational use. We don't believe that it will have any negative impact on the neighbors or on the visual openness of the street. And we feel that this is a appropriate use for the secondary front yard. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
So is this as-built or is this new? It says new, but it's this area right here, right?
That's correct, yes.
It's built.
It's built.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'm a little hard of hearing, so
Okay, well, do you want to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
Yeah, my name is Britt Jewett, an architect. Yeah, it's an as-built condition, and the reason that it evolved during construction was to increase the actual usable area without developing multiple levels in this deck. And then because this is dropped below existing grade behind the site wall and then this privacy wall, it's principally screened from all public view.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, so In the project description and in the letter, it refers to several as-built things. Some needed modifications. Some are going to be dealt with through the substantial conformance determination.
Right.
Okay, so the part that I'm looking at is this as-built patio, and then adding in the pizza oven and the barbecue.
Right. These have not been added in yet. This is as-built. This is proposed.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 2105 Anacapa Street? Seeing no one, have we received any?
We have not.
Letters? No. So I'll close the public hearing. I've been involved with this project since the very beginning when you were proposing to demolish most of it, rebuild it. There's a lot of neighborhood concern. It went to the Planning Commission on appeal. They upheld the appeal. I know at the time that I reviewed the setback, because what you needed was the front setback modification to rebuild the structure because you were changing the basic exterior characteristics. Mm-hmm. I expressed a lot of concerns regarding the size and neighborhood compatibility of it. I approved it with a lot of concerns. And then I know it went to the design board, and it got appealed.
Speak a little louder so I can hear you, please.
Okay. Then it got appealed to the city council, and the city council, the design board got appealed to the city council, and they had a lot of concerns with the size, bulk, and scale, and they put it back on the approval of the modification, which, in my opinion, it was actually design review had the size, bulk, and scale. So for now coming back with a request for additional modifications, that concerns me even more, because I believe the site is overbuilt. There's too much on it, but in reality, my review and purview, and actually there was an interior setback modification too, mine, I believed, was more of a technicality because it was an existing situation. Everything else you were adding conformed to the zoning ordinance. So that's why I still believe the modifications are valid that I approved way back in, I don't know, 8 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So coming in and asking for more intensification, there was a lot of discussion at that original hearing on usability of your private outdoor living space. And it was identified at that time that given the buildings pushed back away from the corner, providing minimum setbacks, that this would function as your open yard area. And I believe at those hearings, I was really clear about what kind of built-in improvements were going to be allowed in that open yard area. And I was really open on that, saying I don't want this to come back piecemeal, ask for more and more things, and all of a sudden this is less of the public setting. That's what a front yard is. It is your private yard, but it's still part of the public streetscape. So to come back and ask for additional things, it gets me concerned. That said, with the deck here and seeing, it's already built, these are even older because it's landscaped now, right? These pictures are older because I went there the other day, and it's more finished. In terms of the public street setting and that, I think this is an appropriate improvement. In regards to these built-in improvements, I don't know that they are truly necessary. It could be found that the modification is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement. You can have a barbecue in that area, but it doesn't have to be. It's in the front yard. It doesn't have to be built in. And when I look at the floor plan, there's, the kitchen's way up on the second floor. So in terms of using it, it seems like it would be more appropriate to have something up in this area where it's offshoot of that area. So I can support the part of the project in regards to the upper patio, but not in regards to the built-in pizza oven and the barbecue. I said that right, barbecue thing. Another thing I'd like to point out is when I went out to the property, I walked around the whole property, and there actually is an air conditioning unit here in the interior setback that needs to be removed. It's not approved, it's as-built, and it's in the setback. So it needs to be relocated somewhere outside of the setback, wherever that is. There's a mechanical place. I don't know if I can go inside. I I don't know, but that needs to be outside of the setback.
Now, explain to me about downstairs. Is there a problem?
Okay, so with your request, there's three items actually that I'm looking at. 3 items. Can you hear me? There's the as-built upper patio. So this picture here. So you're asking for a special permission to allow this patio to remain?
I'm sorry. What about this?
You're asking for it to remain, correct? Does he know what he's asking for?
Yes. I can summarize this.
Okay. He said he would summarize it for you after the hearing.
We'll talk about this outside.
Okay.
Yes, but is everything okay?
Pretty much, yes. I think one thing, though, the location of the built-in elements, I felt was more appropriate, screened from the public way than in this location, or as previously considered on the deck, which was up and definitely in the public view, and would bring bulk and scale and activity in a more noticeable area than screened within the depressed lower patio. So that was the.
Where was this located before? It was inside in the kitchen, right?
There was a built-in barbecue on the deck that was up above, and so it was as a part of the design evolution during building, reconsidered to go in a place where it wasn't as prominent from the public way.
How is it going to function so far away from the kitchen? How?
I don't know that. That was at the owner's request.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, you can have a portable one. Just the built-in ones, I don't feel that that's something appropriate within the front setback.
Okay.
So,
right.
But I can support this, which would be a much major impact to the project.
Exactly.
I think it is consistent. This went to the design board.
Right.
And it's a nice improvement to the elevation. So.
Okay.
Is there a problem with the barbecue and all that?
A little bit. We'll talk about it.
Well, we don't have to have it. I mean,
Right.
Okay. All right. Great.
That's what I thought.
That's good.
Okay.
All right. So, and staff's not proposing any conditions. I do need to add that one regarding the air conditioning unit. It needs to be relocated outside the setback. I think you understand that.
Yep.
Okay. So with that added condition, I can partially approve your project, and without those 2 elements. And my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. So after you speak with him and explain the actions, and like I said, it's here at 630 Garden Street. They also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if either of that was to occur, Betsy would contact you.
Okay.
Okay? All right, great. Thank you.
Okay.
These are yours.
Yes, great. Thank you. And you came in with this. Thank you. Next item is 270 Coleman Avenue, if the applicant would like to come up. Oh, you know what? Why don't you change that chair? I get that one too. You almost tipped you over.
Oh, okay. No.
Are you? After the initial scare.
Yeah, right.
Anytime you're ready, Mr. Tony. Anytime you're ready.
You ready?
Yes.
All right, good morning. I'm Tony Bauman, assistant planner assigned to this project. This is at 270 Coleman Avenue. It's an application for a coastal development permit and an interior setback modification. So the project briefly described as, well, this is the blue line indicates the lot. It's just a simple 60 by 100 rectangular lot. The green outline indicates the proposed project, and the pink indicates the required setbacks. And so this white, just the plain white area plus the gray is the existing house. This is the existing house, existing garage. And then this area plus the hatched area is the proposal. So it would demolish the gray shaded area where the existing garage is and build a new garage forward of that where the driveway is, and then construct a master bedroom addition where the previous garage was, and it would be a little bit bigger going toward the rear. So the existing garage was built to a 5-foot setback. This whole area, it was a residential tract development from the late 1950s. It was called Seaview Acres, and back then it was R1 zoning. So the whole area was developed with 15-foot front setbacks and 5-foot interior setbacks. And this kind of shows the pattern of development with those old R1 setbacks. This is the subject site, and this general area right here was the Seaview Acres. So they're all very similar houses. All along here, these had the garages back at the back. This one recently, I was the planner on this one. It was a bit larger project that had to go to the Planning Commission, but the same thing. They built a garage forward of that one and added on to it.
And needed the mod and all?
I believe they conformed to their setback because they had a little, with this angled lot line in their situation, they just needed the coastal development permit.
Okay.
But anyway, that just kind of shows the development of the neighborhood. And the project's in the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, and this kind of shows a bit of an anomaly along the coast. This is the Mesa coastline. These are the bluff top lots, shoreline, this is a Coast Guard facility, La Mesa Park. So the appealable jurisdiction goes inland to the first public road, and this is Lighthouse Creek coming up by La Mesa Park. So just in this area of the coast of the city, the appealable jurisdiction comes all the way up in here to Elise Way and then goes around like this until it hits these public roads. So that results in this property being in the appealable jurisdiction. And with this master bedroom addition, the project would increase the size of the existing house more than 10%. So that, in the appealable jurisdiction, is the requirement for the coastal development permit. And the applicant is proposing the new two-car garage to be at a 5-foot setback rather than the required 6-foot setback. And that allows them, they're somewhat constrained between where the existing house sits, and they wanted to pull this wall of the garage away from the house enough to have a new entry to improve the entry situation to the house. Right now there's a door going in sideways here. So this would allow an entry, front door facing the street. And transportation would allow them to go less than 20 feet width inside dimension of the garage to at least meet a 5-foot setback. It would really impinge on the project if they had to meet the 6-foot setback, given really the distance between the house and the property line and setback. And then the existing garage, where that's demolished, they would keep the slab and the footing under the slab and build the new master bedroom wall right where the existing garage wall is, and then just come back a little bit further. So in terms of the coastal development permit and consistency with the Coastal Act and local coastal plan policy, given the distance from the coast, a lot of the coastal policies really relate to the actual coast, and this one's a bit removed from that. So it doesn't have an adverse effect on coastal resources. This proposal's visually compatible with the neighborhood. It wouldn't have any impact on views to the ocean or from the ocean. The project provides adequate parking. And just to hit on some local coastal plan policies, neighborhood compatibility. It's not located in any design district and is exempt from design review, but the project's design is compatible with the existing house and its size is compatible with the neighborhood. We mentioned it doesn't have any impact on views. And another local coastal policy regards water quality. This project triggers Tier 2 stormwater management program compliance, and the proposal would be to direct stormwater into a rain garden in this area of the front yard. And back here, okay. So in terms of findings for the coastal development permit, staff feels that the project's consistent with all applicable policies because proposed residents would maintain the single-family character of the neighborhood, not change views, would maintain or improve the quality of water. And the findings for the setback modification, we think it's the setback encroachment is necessary to provide a functional two-car garage and promotes uniformity of improvements by utilizing the existing footing and slab and just maintaining the straight 5-foot setback that's typical for this area. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
Don Swan, designer for the project. And
Aaron Gillis, owner.
And just a couple comments that just to expand a little bit on what Tony mentioned, which he did a perfect job. The plan was to put the master bedroom in the rear yard. Mm-hmm. And then as we looked at it, we got so close to the trees in here, we felt that by bringing it back, we'd lose maybe some of the trees that are this tree also, in order to comply with getting the master bedroom in that spot. So that's what made us think about, well, let's move the garage and then utilize the slab that's in the garage area for that same purpose. So that's where it all evolved from, and then we try to keep it as small as possible to keep it compatible with the area. And that's where basically the only other thing that we have to take care of is that we've got there's an air conditioning over here that we need to get relocate when we get that settled as far as the approvals and so on. So
okay.
Basically, that's it.
All right. One question I do have is what type of openings are proposed in the interior setback? Because here it shows a long window, short, a door and a window. But then when you look at the elevations, it's different. So I'm just wondering. Here's the elevation here. So yeah, so it's clear story, but there's no door. So is the door proposed or no? It's on the site plan.
Well, I guess just exit the garage. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I went there on the site, and Aaron actually was nice. Thank you. He showed me around the property and stuff, so I went and looked because I wanted to see. It wasn't clear on here what existing openings are in the setback right now, and there is like the clear story windows up here. There's not a door. Oh yeah. So here's the garage right now. So the garage door is on this side to get out to the backyard, right?
That's right. Right.
Okay.
And that's the only wall to allow us to get outside.
Yeah, to the back. So what?
I just brought this other picture to show that the impact on that side yard where the fence is. So that
yeah, and I reckon I was commenting on his new fence. Yeah. It's, 8 feet in that area? So
I didn't measure the height of it, but it could be.
Yeah, well, it's taller than 6.
Yeah.
8
feet's okay, though, right?
Yeah, oh, no, yes, 8 feet's fine. Yeah. No, my comment regarding the fence height is that it provides some kind of buffer. It is, as you can see by this picture, it's a solid redwood fence, and it's high. And so in regards to the interplay between the two properties, that
Correct.
reduces some of the nuisance type thing.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
one of the concerns with the interior setback is just noise and stuff type of thing. I'm sorry, that was my question. It was just some inconsistency. And I assume needs to be some kind of door.
Sure.
And it can't really be relocated anywhere because it doesn't have direct access to the
Right.
backyard.
Yeah. Thank you for finding that too.
Okay, sure. So I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 270 Coleman Avenue? See, no one, have we received any emails or calls?
No.
None from you guys?
And there was a lot of deliveries on that one too. I had that complex right next door where I had to give them all the information for.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
there's 60 odd of them back there, 49 of them.
Well, the residents too, yeah, because you're in the coastal zone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. Like I said, I did go out to the site and walk down the neighborhood, and Aaron showed me actually the project you were talking about that did a similar type of thing. I do appreciate in this instance the fact that you were trying to find other locations that may conform to the zoning ordinance in the backyard. I think not only does that cause some issues regarding trying to protect this nice tree, but also then the connectiveness of the master suite with the residents. So in this area, it makes more sense. It flows better. It's connected. Makes a better interior floor plan. So then the question would be, you need to replace your covered parking spaces, and you couldn't, of course, do that in the backyard. So you look in the front, and it's nice that it is set back so far that you have areas outside of the front setback that you can accommodate. I do have concerns that I mentioned to Aaron on the site visit that when you demolish an improvement and rebuild it, we like you to conform to the code, conform to the code or our requirements. So in this instance, the minimum 20 by 20 interior dimensions, but your site is constrained. Your option is to pop it further out, ask for another foot to get the 20 by 20 or get the waiver. You're so close. This is 19 feet 8 inches, so you're 2 inches off here. And then in this area, 18.8, it does pop in. But again, that's more of the doors will probably be opening.
Correct.
Probably back here, maybe right in the middle. But in terms of
and this is the size of the existing garage as well. So.
Yeah, well, I was just mentioning when you're demolishing and rebuilding, we like you to meet to the current things. So.
That's why I went by transportation first before I.
I
would like a bigger garage.
Yeah.
But that's
we're
constrained there.
Yeah, and then in terms of popping out with the roof line and all that, it just doesn't work. So I understand the constraints and everything, and I'm supportive of it. I also appreciate that you automatically just didn't go to I'll do a second story. Just pop the second story, get our huge master suite and everything. So in terms of keeping it consistent with the neighborhood, I realize there's some mixtures of homes in that neighborhood, but I think this is a good solution for the site and can make the findings outlined in the staff report. But I would like to just add a condition, and you are proposing it now, which it wouldn't impact you, but that those windows that are proposed there, that they are clear story, so that if later iterations, it doesn't all of a sudden grow and be these big picture windows. So,
no.
Yeah, I know it's your intent to do clear story, and just so if I just would like to put that condition on the property on it.
No problem.
And then that door, I usually don't like doors in the interior setback, but it's function. You need a door for your garage to get there, and there's not another option. You can't move it around the corner like originally was. And again, that fence in that area provides some sort of buffer, so I can support that. So with that, and when you reviewed the conditions that were proposed by staff, right?
Yeah.
Things and
They were all standard. There was not really anything particular to this project.
Yeah, I didn't see any that I really had any questions on.
And Ms. Reardon, do you want to be specific on these clear story windows, like specifying a
size,
sill height, or anything?
Well, it's generally in the upper portion of the walls, I think, by definition.
Okay.
Right. I'll leave it up to you. It's the clear stories are up in the upper portion of the wall, so it's not like I'm calling this a clear story window down here.
Yeah.
So no, in this instance, I don't think I need to do
You
it.
have egress windows. Otherwise,
right there.
you don't need this, right, for egress.
This isn't already,
No.
it's already not proposed
It's
as
just for a
one.
little bit of light from north side. It'll just be a 2-foot-high window.
Above the bed, yeah.
Maybe above the bed, yeah. Oh, no, it's
Above
the
the-
bed wall.
the dresser.
Above the dresser.
But these other windows would meet your
Yeah,
egress
right.
requirement.
And this one's outside the setback.
Yeah, so this
still
one-
we're fine.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that added condition, I can make the findings outlined in the staff report and regarding the interior setback modification and the coastal development permit and approve your project. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period, and if either of those were occur, Tony would contact you.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
If we, in between that temporary 10-day period, if we could submit the permit, is that correct? Is that
At your own risk, you
Yeah,
can.
yeah, okay, very good. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Now I'll move to the last project, which is 321 Oceano Avenue.
Okay. So this is a revised application. The staff hearing officer saw a proposal here, a proposed project at the same property on July 6th of this year, and it was proposing 3 dwelling units at that time. But that wasn't consistent with the local coastal program land use map in terms of density. So staff hearing officer couldn't make the findings, so now they're back with a revised project proposing 2 units. It's a duplex building. It's more or less the same site layout, except now we have one duplex building, all connected. Similar to the project you just saw, this is requesting a coastal development permit and a modification, but this would be a lot area modification. So yeah, even though the 2013 general plan has a higher land use designation, that's not applicable in the coastal zone. So this area is still R2 and still 12 dwelling units per acre, and that's what this project calculates out to, a little bit under 12 units per acre. So this lot has a bit of a slope. Oceano's on this side going down toward the ocean, and the lot slopes kind of down this way. And the applicant did a slope calculation and found the average slope is 11.3%. So because that's between 10 and 20% slope, the project must provide 1.5 times the base lot area to calculate the allowable dwelling units. And staff feels that the requested modification of the lot area is supportable because this proposed duplex is an appropriate improvement given the character of the neighborhood, which has a mix of single-family and multifamily development. So I just printed this out a few minutes ago, just showing an overview of the area and how it really is a mixture. Before 1975, this area was R3, so there are some multifamily apartment buildings here. And then there's some leftover older single-family houses, so it's very much a mixture. This is the project site. They would demolish this single-family house, and it's immediately adjacent to this large apartment building. They went to the Architectural Board of Review, and they found it was a modest proposal for this site. The size of this project fits in very well to the lot and the neighborhood, and is compatible. So staff is supportable of the lot area modification for those reasons. In terms of Coastal Act and local coastal plan consistency, the site is not in any area of biological or cultural resource sensitivity, poses no inconsistencies with relevant policies. Neighborhood compatibility, we just mentioned, and the ABR found that the project meets the project compatibility analysis criteria, and their minutes are attached to your staff report. There are no views of the coast across this property. It's an infill development project. And the policy regarding water quality, similar as the previous project, except this one is much more development and it's Tier 3. So the project would meet the Tier 3 stormwater management requirements for water quality. The project's exempt from further environmental review. So staff can recommend approval of the coastal development permit. I think that does it for my staff presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
Sure. Keith Rivera, architect. Yeah, we feel that given the context in the neighborhood and the predominance of higher density residential around the site, that the lot area modification is a reasonable and supportable request for this site. And we feel it's a well-designed project, as evident by the support from ABR in making the compatibility findings. So we would urge you to follow staff's recommendation for approval of the coastal development permit and the lot area modification.
Okay, I have a question regarding the design of the units. When I reviewed it back in July, it had 3 units, and the size of the living area was about like 3,700 square feet. Now it has, and 7 bedrooms. And now it's 2 units, it's 3,800 square feet, and there's 9 bedrooms. And I don't see really any of them designed in the traditional master bedroom sense. They're all individual bedrooms with bathrooms. So what the concern is, we're talking about bonus density, over density type request, and now there's 9 bedrooms. I know the whole area is kind of City College related. Just the whole density aspect of it. So if you can explain a little bit of the design changes.
Well, obviously going from 3 to 2 units, I believe the previous scheme was in 7 bedrooms, so
yes.
There's 2 additional bedrooms.
With 1 less unit.
Right. It's obviously an area that's predominantly student housing adjacent to City College, and it's not, I think the marketplace and the tenants are not your typical residential kind of nuclear family that would require a master bedroom suite per se. So that's really the kind of programmatic reason why.
I know, I don't come and it goes away and it comes back.
Programmatic reason why the configuration is such. Even though there's additional bedrooms, the way the mass is broken up on the site to follow the slope of the sloping site, so it visually appears as a series of smaller structures. Was appropriate and was well received by ABR.
Yeah, I'm talking about just the layout, not the design of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, because there's a policy about residential development, and it says it's 5.3, new residential development in and or adjacent to existing residential neighborhoods must be compatible in terms of scale, size, and design with the prevailing character of the established neighborhood, which the design board said it was, and I agree with that. Then the second part of the policy says, new development which would result in an overburdening of public circulation and or street parking resources of existing residential neighborhoods shall not be permitted. And so when I look at all these bedrooms and there's only 4 parking spaces proposed, I get concerned regarding just as there's adequate parking. So that's why I was asking that question of just the atypical design of it. But, okay, first I'll open a public hearing. And there's no one in the audience. Have we received any emails or phone calls?
Yes, we got one public comment.
Oh, you're right. I received that one, and I didn't review it. It's
Joseph M. Gonzalez.
Yes. They own 2 properties on Bronca, and they strenuously oppose this project on the grounds that it increases already substantial density of the neighborhood and damages its character as a pleasant neighborhood of small homes by contributing to the creep of multi-residential units. And you received a copy of that email?
Received a copy of it. I mean, obviously, it's a fairly dense neighborhood with a lot of larger, older apartment buildings. So it's, I don't think it's really fair to characterize it as a single-family neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I'll close the public hearing. So to get, in terms of the development itself, the building size, it got a little bigger than what I reviewed before, but at that time the concern was not the size, it was the number of units and the quandary we had that our new general plan update envisioned that type of development, but it hasn't been approved by the Coastal Commission yet, so we can't implement that. So then we have to revert to what we have right now. So in regards to the size and the scale, it is appropriate. And all the other coastal policies related to views and hazards, and this isn't in a cultural resource area, was it?
No.
It's all consistent with those. I just have concerns regarding just the potential for parking and the to be able to accommodate it, and just a way. In regards, can you explain your thought process with the driveway in terms of, I see there's different differentiation here. Is that for like pedestrians and stuff?
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the ABR's comments on the previous schemes or suggestions to provide, a visual demarcation of the pedestrian path along the shared driveway there. So that's what that change in the pattern there represents. So that would distinguish a pedestrian path to the rear unit's entry.
Now, is there a way, I don't know that there is, but like a ribbon type driveway to reduce the paving? It says concrete paving. Is it going to be permeable? Or?
It's not going to be permeable, kind of given the slope. There's some kind of real maintenance concerns about the permeable surface on the slope.
Okay.
Stormwater-wise, we have a series of subsurface chambers at the lower open space area, so that's taking care of the stormwater requirements.
Okay.
So, the other configuration of the driveway is just meeting the transportation's, maneuvering requirements. We'll note that the project has significantly less paving than the previous scheme had, because the previous scheme, the driveway came all the way down the entire length of the site. So as I recall, it was something like 20 or 30% less paving area than we had in the previous scheme.
Have you, this went through DART, huh? Was there any mention, I guess my concern is having cars parked all over the driveway. Is this the minimum necessary? Do you know the minimum necessary? Could it be reduced down?
It is very much the minimum. I mean, given the 50-foot width of the lot, that's why we're putting our garages 3 feet into the 3-foot setback there to make the maneuverability work. So I wish there was some way to make reduce the paving, but I think that's really a transportation issue with maneuverability.
Yeah. Right, yeah, they would have to. I wouldn't want
it's on the tight side, because I think there might have even been a little bit of a waiver for this thing to maneuver around with the turning templates.
And this is only 12, right? 12 feet, or the curb cut's 12 feet. So this is this distance here, because here's measured, which includes to the building, to the parking line, 17. So it is pretty narrow.
This is 3 feet, and so that is a 12-foot ribbon. So it's fairly minimal. And again, it's all driven by that 50-foot lot width. One of the comments from ABR was to study the relocation of the trash enclosure to create more usable open space. So I think the current thought is that this is going to relocate closer to the driveway to capture that open space into the existing area there.
Oh, that makes sense, because here's the front door to this unit, and then this is kind of all dead space.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a comment we're going to take to heart in the next phase.
Just don't let it end up being in the garage.
Well, that was why we added the enclosure. That was, I believe, one of your comments on the previous scheme.
Right, yeah. Okay. I still have concerns regarding the layout, not necessarily the density. The lot area modification that you're requesting, it's supportable in that it's consistent with the density outlined in our coastal plan. It's just part of that downzoning that we did that messed up a lot of properties in the city. And so the lot area modification is supportable, as well as the coastal permit. I know this area is part of the permit parking program, right? It's
I believe so.
Student parking, limited.
On the street, yes. I believe it's by permit.
Okay. And that is, it's just between the hours of 8 and 4, Monday through Friday, right? Or you don't know?
That, I'm not sure the
Do you know?
details of that.
Yeah, just trying to figure out a way to kind of encourage, since it is close to City College, to have students with no cars.
Well, that's the idea. I mean, we're half a block away.
Yeah, it's on the other side of here's
you have
development in the house.
Transportation right up here on Cliff.
West Campus entrance.
And then you have, shopping just, Mesa Shopping Center just
right down
quarter
there.
mile away. So it is a very walkable and bikeable area given the demographic and the services that are nearby.
Okay. Well, like I said, the lot area modification is supportable in terms of renting of rooms in single family or duplexes. The city doesn't regulate that. And our parking demand is based on units versus bedrooms. So, I just encourage you to get people, that don't have cars. I'm toying with the idea of adding a condition that this property can't participate in the residential permit parking program, but I'm not sure how much that'll get cars off the street, because they could park on the street after 4 and on the weekends when other residents are there. It's just more in terms of keeping City College kids from parking in that area and impacting the street. And the reason being it'd be for consistency with this policy that talks about new development, which would result in an overburdening of public circulation and/or street parking resources of existing residential neighborhoods shall not be permitted.
Well, I think that would probably be an acceptable condition so that you keep all the parking on site.
Yeah, well, it'd be for cars, and they couldn't park in the driveway because then you couldn't get to the garages. Yeah, or it just would block it all. Okay, so I will add that condition that the residents of this property can't participate in the residential permit parking program. That way, I can get to consistency with this.
Understood.
This condition or this policy. And then, okay, so yeah, the ribbon driving wouldn't work. I noticed on here, I just want to confirm. So, well, this is a denotation, but here it says a curb. So there's going to be a curb on both sides of the driveway?
Yes.
Would you be opposed if I put that condition? My concern being is that if the curb decides to be taken away, then cars will end up parking in the planters and areas that should be landscaped.
That's fine. Really, we need the curbs to kind of help direct the water for the storm water management. So that's otherwise the water would be going all over the place. So,
right. Yeah. Okay.
So that's fine. We're definitely going to be needing those. So
think that was it. That was my concerns for those two. So with that, let me just make sure for my notes. Yeah, okay, so those were, and then you've read the conditions that were already proposed by staff and understand them?
Correct, yes. The owners have as well.
Okay, great. So with those two added conditions that we talked about, the residential permit parking and the curbs, I can make the findings outlined in the staff report in regards to the lot area modification and the coastal development permit. And I don't need to make an environmental review finding for the general plan consistency with this one. I don't see one in here.
Yeah, I guess
So
you
actually, I
do.
do.
For that.
Yeah.
Right.
So it wasn't listed in the staff report, but I do need to make an environmental finding, 15183. So I will add that in, and Tony can get you the wording for the resolution. So with those three findings and the conditions as I amended them today, I can approve your project. And my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if either of those would occur, Tony would contact you. Okay?
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. I adjourn the meeting.